The Mutter Museum began as a donation from Philadelphia surgeon Thomas Dent Mutter, who wanted to reform medical education. Mutter donated 1,700 items and $30,000 to create the museum. Along with Mutter's donations, one of the most important collections to form the museum was the Hertel Skull Collection. The original collection of 139 human skulls were collected by the Austrian anatomist Joseph Hertel. These skulls were collected from every ethnic group Dr. Hertel could find, and he used them to counter the claims of phrenologists, who believed that cranial features were evidence of intelligence and racial differences caused anatomical differences. Thomas Husenbach of the Mutter Museum purchased the collection from Dr. Hertel in 1874 from Vienna, Austria, and brought the skulls back to Philadelphia. The original intent for the museum was for it to be a place where medical students and professionals could study and look at anatomical specimens and medical history up close. The original layout of the museum included tables, chairs, pens, and paper, so that people could use the place to study and take notes. This idea shifted over time, especially when the museum gained popularity in the 1990s and became more public. The Mutter Museum is most well known for their large collection of human skulls and bones. The museum showcases the many variations of the human body through their collection of skeletons. The Hertel Skull Collection is one of the museum's permanent exhibits and is probably their most popular collection. Although their non-permanent exhibits are switched around often, one of the more memorable skeletons were those of conjoined twins who shared the same skull. Another interesting exhibit was the skeletons of the American giant, an average human, and a dwarf standing side by side to compare the bodies of the three people. The museum also has an array of interesting skulls with deformities as well as skulls that show intense injuries. If bones weren't enough, the Mutter Museum is also home to a large collection of body parts that are held in glass jars and preserved. The museum has over 1,300 wet specimens in their collection, and have at least one from every part of the human body, as well as parts that aren't supposed to be there, such as tumors and cysts. These preserved parts are very fragile, but are by far the most interesting to look at. Unfortunately, not everything at the Mutter Museum could be the original, but they do have an extensive collection of medical models. Medical models like these were often used in the 18th and 19th century because of the difficulty of using cadavers, and they were used to teach students at the time. These models were mostly made by only two firms, and they offer extremely accurate anatomy and show some of the weirder medical cases throughout history. Medical tools that span the history of medicine can also be found at the Mutter Museum. These sets of tools can help viewers see how far we have come with our medical techniques and knowledge since ancient times. They also give us a look at how barbaric medicine really was before the technology that we have today. Many tools present offer a look at some of the more important milestones in medical history. During my research, I also came across a recent controversy related to the ethics of displaying human remains that directly affected the Mutter Museum. Until just recently, the Mutter Museum had a skull with a bullet lodged into its right eye on display in their collection of war remains. The soldier who was killed was recently found to be an Australian soldier from World War I who was killed in action. The soldier was fatally wounded in 1917, and his skull was donated to the Mutter from a surgeon who treated the soldier in France. In September of 2017, the Australian government ordered to have the skull returned so that it could be buried with the rest of its fellow soldiers and the rest of his body, honorably. The Mutter Museum complied and returned the skull, saying that they respect the wishes of the Australian Army and out of respect for the fallen soldier. To wrap up, I have included a short video going into detail about some of the most interesting exhibits at the Mutter.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Most visitors to the city of brotherly love expect to see the Liberty Bell and eat a Philly cheesesteak, but there are also plenty of surprises to discover along the way. Those searching for the macabre need look no further than the College of Physicians Mutter Museum. This museum's unconventional collection showcases some of the more eccentric curiosities of the medical profession. The stately marble halls and wood-paneled rooms are home to an extensive array of skeletons, skulls, and internal organs, ranging from the anatomically odd to the downright bizarre. It's here that you'll come face to face with a 9-foot enlarged human colon that once belonged to a sideshow performer, and a pair of shrunken human heads. They date back to the 1850s, when explorers returning from South America sparked a craze for tribal fetish objects, many of which were indeed made from real human skulls. While this plaster cast of the original Siamese twins, Chang and Eng, has had a sheltered existence here in the museum, the real-life brothers achieved wealth and fame traveling the world in a 19th century show of curiosities. After retiring in 1839, the conjoined pair chose to live a more normal life by marrying 2 sisters and having 21 children between them. And tucked away in a corner of the museum is a box containing the last known remnants of one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, tissue specimens from Albert Einstein's brain. In 1955, his brain was stolen by the doctor who performed his autopsy. It was then divided into slides and sent to researchers across the country for extensive study. It was revealed that the unique anatomy of Einstein's brain may have given him superior visual and mathematical abilities. From miniature heads to oversized intestines, the Mütter Museum provides a stunning look at the amazing world of human anatomy.